Coming up in our newscast. While the daily COVID-19 tally went down after the weekend, concerns remain high that infections could spike again. Authorities say the current outbreak may continue for some time due to the fast spread of the stealth Omicron variant. Russia issued a deadline for Mariupol authorities to surrender, but Ukrainians reject the ultimatum and Moscow continues attacking. President-elect Yoon holds a meeting with heads of 6 South Korean business organizations. He vows to remove obstacles in the way for companies, emphasizing growth should be led by the private sector. Hello, hope your week's off to a smooth start. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. The nation saw a decline in daily COVID-19 tally over the weekend, but the figures are likely to bounce back on Tuesday. Experts have been saying the number of cases is near the peak and the Omicron wave is not expected to strain the medical system. The government is ordering more coronavirus pills likely to arrive next month. Yoon starts us off.
South Korea on Monday reported 209,169 new infections, bringing the total number of infections to over 9.5 million. Monday's figure was a drop of more than 120,000 from a day ago. And it was the first time in 10 days that the daily tally came down to the 200,000 range. While many health experts have been forecasting that the country will pass the peak of Omicron by next week, officials said that the appearance of stealth Omicron could prolong this wave. Also known as BA2, stealth Omicron is reportedly much more contagious than the original strain and has already taken up more than 41% of all locally transmitted cases. Due to the spread of Omicron and its new stealth strain, the country on Monday recorded 329 more deaths, the second highest number so far. That brings the total death toll to 12,757. Most crematoriums are fully booked, forcing mourners to wait 5 or 6 days for the remains of their loved ones to be cremated. Notwithstanding this, in a bid to get life back to normal, authorities have decided to ease some social distancing guidelines. The main change is to allow larger private gatherings of up to 8 people. This is 2 more than what had been a maximum of 6 people up to Sunday. Business hours for restaurants and cafes will remain the same, though, having to close at 11 p.m. Health authorities have decided to modify their antivirus measures now, despite concerns from some health experts that the scale of the pandemic could expand amid the surge of Omicron. Officials said, though, that they would only make slight tweaks to the extent that it doesn't make the situation worse or increase the strain on the medical system. This explains why they've decided to not extend business operation hours from 11 p.m. to midnight. Another new COVID-19 measure from Monday is giving boosters to teens aged 12 to 17 who had their second vaccine shot more than 3 months ago. The government is also planning to take delivery of some 100,000 courses of Lagevrio, also known as Molnupiravir, an oral COVID-19 pill manufactured by Merck. Lagevrio is still awaiting the official green light from the country's drug regulator, which is set for sometime this week. In addition, some 95,000 courses of Pfizer's Paxlovid are also set to arrive in the country in April. As of now, only seniors aged 60 and up, the immunocompromised, and those 40 and over with underlying conditions like diabetes or cardiovascular disease are eligible for the drugs. 신예은, Arirang News.
Vaccinated individuals arriving in South Korea won't have to self-isolate for 7 days. A negative PCR test is still required. With the changes, a spike in people booking vacations and business travel is expected. Kim Bo-kyung explains further.
Travel demand is expected to soar as from Monday, South Korean citizens and foreign nationals who are fully vaccinated are exempt from South Korea's 7-day quarantine on arrival.
Starting March 21st, all overseas travelers who have completed their COVID-19 vaccinations either in the country or abroad and registered their vaccination history will be exempt from the mandatory week-long self-isolation.
Health authorities require travelers to submit a negative PCR test before entering South Korea. Even if the result is negative, until now they still had to quarantine for 7 days. Now that the measure has been eased, those who have been inoculated with vaccines certified by the World Health Organization will no longer have to self-isolate. To be classed as fully vaccinated, 14 days must have passed after getting one dose of the Janssen vaccine or the second dose of one of the other vaccines. If more than 180 days have passed since that second dose, a booster shot or proof that you have had COVID-19 is also needed. Health authorities will check travelers' vaccination history through the gov't app, and from April 1st, those who have not registered their history will be able to directly enter it through the entry system upon arrival in South Korea. Those coming in from Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, or Myanmar need to still quarantine on arrival. People in South Korea who are leaving the country, however, still need to check the rules for the country they are traveling to. Travelers to the United Kingdom and Mongolia can enter those countries without any vaccine certificate or negative test result. But for most countries, such as the United States, Germany, and Singapore, visitors need to show those two documents in order not to quarantine in those places. Meanwhile, Japan and Taiwan still require travelers to be under self-isolation even if they are vaccinated. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol had a lunch meeting with the heads of 6 South Korean business organizations. They met at the Transition Committee office and focused on the difficulties firms are facing. The incoming leader laid out some of his visions for the economy as well. Kim Hyun-sung brings the highlights from that session.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol on Monday discussed the future of South Korea's economy over lunch with the heads of 6 business organizations. The leaders of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Korea International Trade Association, Federation of Korean Industries, K-Biz Korea Federation of SMEs, Korea Enterprises Federation, and Federation of Middle Market Enterprises of Korea were in attendance. The 7 gathered in the Transition Committee office in Tongidong Jongno-gu District and had lunchboxes. Over this casual meal, Yoon shared his economic vision for the country.
정부는 인프라를 만들고 뒤에서 도와드리고 하여튼 기업이 앞장서서 큰 기업이든 작은 기업이든 일자리 만들어내면서 투자도 하고 이렇게 뭐 기업이 커가는 게 나라가 커가는 거 아니겠습니까?
The heads of the business organizations also shared some of the difficulties their members are facing. They claim that some of the industry laws are slanted too favorably towards the workers, and that some regulations are impeding investment and the growth of new industries. They also asked Yoon to reform labor laws and business regulations, such as the Severe Disaster Punishment Act, and to resolve the global supply chain problem. Yoon left the door to his office open by asking organization heads to provide him insight on what they find to be problematic, so that the government knows when to step in to help spur companies' growth. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol's Transition Committee has been up and running for a few days now. Most recently, the team announced its timeline for the transition period of around 50 days on how it will prepare for the new government in the run-up to the inauguration. Kim Do-yeon has the details.
With President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol's Transition Committee starting its first full week, members of the committee got together for its second all-member meeting on Monday. With its chairman, An Chul-soo, overseeing the meeting, the committee created an outline of how it will prepare for the start of the new administration on May 10th. The president-elect is scheduled to sit down with the committee at least twice a week on a regular basis.
The president-elect will share his vision and philosophy for the new government and be responsible for core governmental tasks himself, so he can show his deep understanding, interest, and drive. Through this, we expect our plans to have a high implementation rate during his term.
Specifically, the spokesperson for the committee says, except for Saturdays, there will be a meeting on a daily basis to bring each of the branches together. Chairman An Chul-soo will be overseeing 4 of the 6 weekly meetings, including the all-member meeting on Monday. President-elect Yoon will meet with the committee's branch leaders on Tuesday and be briefed on the progress of each branch on Thursday. Each branch is also expected to visit their respective government agencies once a week to meet with the working-level government officers. As for the big picture, the spokesperson says each branch will come up with a final list of tasks for the new administration by end of April. And by early May, the President-elect will be briefed on them. About a week before the inauguration, Yoon will announce to the public what his administration and his government arms will focus on during his term. In addition, during the meeting early in the day, the committee decided to expand the current special COVID-19 response task force into a special branch.
To respond to the serious COVID-19 situation, we will have up to 20 people in this special branch. It will consist of experts in medicine, data analysts for virus prevention, economic experts for compensating small businesses, as well as government employees in the health and finance ministries.
The spokesperson also reiterated that this transition committee was formed faster than any other ones in history. However, she says that doesn't mean there's plenty of time. So work will be done in a timely manner with humility and a sense of responsibility. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
We now turn to the latest on the China Eastern Airlines accident. The Boeing 737 carrying 132 people, including 9 crew members, crashed in China on Monday. The plane flying from Kunming to Guangzhou reportedly caught fire after crashing into the hills in Guangxi Province. The country's Civil Aviation Administration said the jet lost contact before the crash while flying over Wuzhou. The cause of the accident is still unknown at this point. Over 600 emergency crew members and first responders have extinguished the blaze at the site. This is the first major flight accident involving a Chinese airliner in 12 years. Moving on to other stories now, North Korea has reportedly been gathering more than 6,000 troops to prepare for a military parade, possibly scheduled for next month. Amid risks of cyber attacks from the regime in Russia, Seoul's defense ministry and the state intel agency have raised cybersecurity levels. Eun has the latest.
North Korea is showing signs of preparing for a large-scale military parade. Many speculate that the North will hold a parade next month, on April 15th, to mark the 110th anniversary of the birth of its founder, Kim Il-sung.
South Korea and the U.S. military are closely monitoring the situation together, but we have nothing to share for now, and our military has a very strong defense posture.
An official from the Joint Chiefs of Staff who spoke on the condition of anonymity said on Monday that there have been media reports of around 6,000 North Korean troops gathered for a military parade. But the military's assessment shows that the number has risen to more than that. But the official added that there aren't any notable changes to the situation. This comes after Voice of America News reported last Friday that the North is showing signs of preparing for a military parade. Citing a satellite image, it said as many as 6,000 troops are amassed at the parade training ground of Mirim Airport in Pyongyang. Meanwhile, South Korea's defense ministry and the state intelligence agency both raised their cybersecurity levels on Monday, amid heightened risks of cyber attacks from North Korea and Russia. The defense ministry on Monday raised it from level 4 to level 3, the third highest in the 5-tier system. This is the first time in 7 months that it has been raised. A defense ministry official said the increased readiness comes amid ongoing cyber conflicts between Russia and Ukraine and concerns over North Korea's recent missile test leading to cybersecurity threats. Citing similar reasons, the National Intelligence Service also raised its own level alert by a notch. Eun, Arirang News.
Pyongyang is yet to acknowledge Sunday's rocket launch. This is a rather unusual pattern as the regime normally announces weapons tests quickly when they're successful. Kim Da-mi provides a deeper analysis.
North Korea stayed quiet on Monday about its test firing of artillery the previous day. None of its state media, such as the Korean Central News Agency, have reported the launch, which could mean it was a part of the regime's ongoing wintertime military exercises.
The North typically doesn't stage strategic provocations in the West Sea. That's because China also borders the West Sea, which makes it hard for the regime to fire mid- to long-range ICBMs there.
The North on Sunday fired 4 rounds from multiple rocket launchers into the West Sea from an unidentified location in Pyongan-namdo Province. It's unusual for the regime not to mention such a move. It's normally quick to report on major missile launches and new weapons tests when they're successful. For instance, it said nothing about the apparent failure of an ICBM launch last Thursday, but did boast about the launch of an ICBM disguised as a reconnaissance satellite earlier this month. Instead, on Monday, the North's weekly propaganda publication, the 통일신보, lashed out at Seoul and Washington for the joint military drills they have planned next month, calling the move a clear provocation. South Korea's Unification Ministry said on Monday that Seoul is closely following the frequent criticisms from high levels of the North Korean regime about a range of security matters, such as the South Korean government's official comment on the North's flurry of missile tests.
As we have mentioned several times, North Korea must recognize that mutual respect is a matter that has been agreed upon between the two Koreas numerous times and is the basic foundation for the development of inter-Korean relations.
The Unification Ministry pointed out the South Korean government's pledge to maintain a strong readiness posture so that there is no lapse in security during the upcoming change of administration, saying Seoul will prepare for all possibilities and once again urged the North to return to dialogue. 김다미, Arirang News.
Elsewhere around the world, almost a month into Russia's invasion, Ukraine's president issued his most fervent appeal yet for ceasefire talks with Putin on Sunday. But Moscow is carrying out a ruthless response by shifting its strategy and escalating attacks against civilians. Our Ishiu is standing by on the line with the latest. Shiu, do fill us in.
Well, overnight, Russian forces bombed a shopping center in the Podilsky district in Kyiv, according to the Ukrainian prosecutor general. At least 8 people have been killed in the attack, but it's been suggested the number of fatalities could rise. A shopping center and cars in an adjacent parking lot caught fire following the shelling, and 63 firefighters worked to extinguish the flames. On Sunday morning, Russian forces also bombed an art school in Mariupol that was being used as a shelter for about 400 people. Officials are struggling to find out how many have survived as people remain trapped under the rubble and rescue efforts continue. Mariupol came under further bombardment overnight.
And Ukraine has rejected Russia's ultimatum that the besieged city surrender by Monday morning. What can you tell us about this issue?
Well, according to Russian state media, its Ministry of Defense had called on leadership of Mariupol to surrender the city by 5 a.m. Monday, Moscow time, or 4 a.m. in Mariupol. The head of the Russian National Center for Defense Management reportedly said all who lay down their arms are guaranteed safe passage out of Mariupol. According to CNN, Ukraine rejected the terms as a false choice. While the Russian ultimatum appeared to offer those who choose to surrender safe passage out of the city, it made no such guarantees for those remaining. In an interview late on Sunday, Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk rejected Russia's terms, saying there can be no discussion of any surrender or of laying down arms. The deadline for Mariupol authorities to surrender the city has now passed. Mariupol has been under siege for several weeks and has seen some of the heaviest bombardments since the invasion began. Take a listen to what President Zelensky had to say about what Russian forces have done to the city.
To do this to a peaceful city, what the occupiers did to it is a terror that will be remembered for centuries to come.
And we've also heard Moscow has shown signs of a shifting military strategy using hypersonic missiles in its attacks.
Yes, Russia's Ministry of Defense said that its military had used its Kinzhal, or hypersonic missiles, to destroy an underground weapons cache and a fuel depot on Friday and Sunday, respectively. Neither strike has been confirmed by Ukraine, but according to Mikhailo Podolyak, a presidential advisor, the Ukrainian cities were being targeted with more destructive artillery, including the Kinzhal missiles. If verified, the strikes would mark the first use of nuclear-capable advanced weapons in this war. The UK's Chief of Defense Intelligence, Lieutenant General Jim Hockenhall, told reporters on Friday that the Russian operations have changed and that a new strategy will involve the reckless and indiscriminate use of firepower, destroying Ukrainian infrastructure and increasing civilian casualties. That's all I have at this hour. Back to you, Daniel.
All right, Shiu, thank you for those updates. Moving on, U.S. President Joe Biden will meet with his Polish counterpart this week to discuss the Ukraine crisis. Before the trip, the commander-in-chief is due for talks with EU leaders in Brussels, focusing on new sanctions against Russia. Choi Min-jung provides a glimpse of what to expect.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to visit Poland on Friday as part of his efforts to address Russia's invasion of Ukraine. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said late Sunday that Biden will hold a bilateral meeting with President Andrzej Duda of Poland. She added that they will discuss how the U.S., together with its allies and partners, is responding to the humanitarian and human rights crisis Russia sparked in Ukraine. Biden's trip to Poland comes a day after he meets with the members of NATO and the European Union in Brussels to discuss global efforts to support Ukraine. Psaki on Sunday tweeted that the trip will be focused on rallying support for Ukraine and against Putin's invasion. The White House also said that Biden will arrange a call for Monday regarding the matter with French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Before Biden arrives in Brussels on Thursday, EU leaders will on Monday discuss new rounds of sanctions against Russia. According to Reuters, an oil embargo is being considered. The discussions comes following a series of sanctions already imposed on Russia, including 685 Russian and Belarusian individuals. Unlike the US and the UK, the bloc has yet to impose sanctions on Russian oil, as Moscow warned that it could lead to it closing a major gas pipeline to the region. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The nation's exports are up 10.1% on year, but that growth was outpaced by imports, resulting in a trade deficit of more than $2 billion. According to the Korea Customs Service, outbound shipments through March 20th came to more than $37.2 billion. The 16th month in a row, they were higher on year. Growth was led by semiconductors, which rose by more than 30% to roughly $7.8 billion. Exports of petroleum products soared 79%. Mainly due to an historic oil price spike driven by the Ukraine crisis. But with South Korea importing all of its oil, the trade deficit resulted from the same factor. Inbound shipments were up 18.9% to $39.2 billion. Seoul City is going to help major shopping and dining neighborhoods bring back customers following the shift to online shopping and food delivery during the pandemic. As one of the main pledges of Mayor Oh Se-hoon, each of 5 districts to be selected will get up to 3 billion won, or about $2.4 million over 3 years. Details are not announced yet, but the money will be used to improve infrastructure and help future small business owners get started. The city will choose the neighborhoods to support based on an evaluation of their commercial potential. Neighborhood business associations can apply by submitting a plan for the funds to the Seoul Credit Guarantee Foundation by April 7th.
Spring has officially started, but the cold snap will continue until tomorrow morning. Temperatures will stay below the seasonal norms, with some regions like Chuncheon seeing readings in the negative territory. Big contrasts in temperatures of more than 10 degrees are expected. Dressing in layers will be recommended. Spring rain is in the forecast for southern parts of the country. Already light showers of 5 to 30 millimeters are coming and going for Jeju Island. The south coast will see some raindrops overnight. In terms of the air quality, western central regions will see high concentrations of fine dust tomorrow. The rest of the country will see clean air. Morning lows in Seoul and Daejeon will start up at 1 degree Celsius. Chuncheon will be cold at -2 degrees. As for the daily highs, Seoul will get up to 13 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju 14, and Gyeongju will make it to 12 degrees Celsius. Partly cloudy skies will continue for the time being. Nationwide showers are in the forecast for the latter half of the week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.